Justin Timberlake and Olivia Wilde sci-fi movie. Let's begin. In the year 2169, a revolutionary genetic engineering breakthrough has allowed humanity to stop aging at the physical age of 25. A person's remaining lifespan is displayed on a clock implanted in their forearm, which begins counting down once they reach the age of 25. This living time can be transferred between individuals through physical contact. Society has become stratified into distinct social classes, each living in specialized time zones tailored to their economic status. The impoverished reside in the ghettos of Dayton, where the youth predominate. They must work tirelessly each day to earn a few more hours of life, using that time to pay for basic necessities, as time has replaced currency. In contrast, the wealthy elite live in the luxurious enclave of New Greenwich, where the middle-aged and elderly predominate, though they appear youthful as they have all stopped aging at 25. The story follows 28-year-old factory worker Will Salas, who lives with his mother Rachel in the Dayton ghettos. One day, Will saves a 105-year-old man named Henry Hamilton from a time robbery assault in a bar. As Will Salas rescues the 105-year-old Henry Hamilton from the time robbery assault by the Minutemen gang led by the elderly British mobster boss Fortis, Hamilton reveals a dark truth about the society they live in. He tells Will, for few to be immortal, many must die. Hamilton explains that there is essentially enough living time for everyone to live a full life, but it has been hoarded and stockpiled by the wealthy elite, who have effectively become immortal. An upset Will argues that no one should die before their time naturally ends. In response, Hamilton grimly describes how he no longer even desires life, stating, "Your mind can be spent, even if your body is not. We want to die. We need to." He goes on to explain how the rich maintain control over the population of the poor by exploiting the time zone system, raising prices and taxes so that the poor are constantly struggling to gain enough time to survive. Later that night, Hamilton makes a final, selfless act. He transfers 116 years of his own remaining time to the sleeping Will, keeping only 5 minutes for himself. Hamilton then uses those final moments to go sit on a bridge over an aqueduct, allowing his time to expire as he falls into the river below. Will arrives too late to save Hamilton. The resident police force, known as the Timekeepers, have various theories about his death. A young timekeeper named Yeager correctly assumes that Hamilton had timed out and committed suicide. However, a middle-aged veteran timekeeper named Raymond Leon is convinced that Hamilton was murdered by a Dayton resident. Before leaving, Will visits his friend Burrell and gives him 10 years of his own time, one for each year of their friendship. Then, as Will waits for his mother at the bus station, he discovers that the price of the bus fare has suddenly increased, leaving Rachel without enough time to pay. Faced with a 2-hour walk home, the desperate Rachel tries in vain to find someone who can loan her the extra time. Ultimately, with only minutes left on her clock, Rachel panics and begins running. Will races to try and catch up with her, but he arrives too late. Rachel's time expires, and she collapses and dies in his arms. Shattered by his mother's untimely demise, Will's resolve to seek justice is strengthened. He departs for New Greenwich, carrying over a century of time on his clock. As he soon learns, it costs a significant amount of time just to cross the borders into the wealthy time zone, a tactic used by the elite to ensure the poor never gain access to their lavish enclaves. Upon arriving in New Greenwich, Will enters a casino where he encounters an influential, time-loaning businessman named Philippe Weiss and his daughter Sylvia. Sylvia observes Will's arrival and becomes intrigued, approaching him at the gambling table where Will ends up betting and winning practically his entire time against Weiss in a high-stakes poker game. Impressed, Sylvia invites Will to attend a party at her family's lavish mansion.
What's the hurry?
At the lavish Weiss mansion, Will is suddenly apprehended by the timekeeper Raymond Leon, who quickly confiscates all but 2 hours of Will's time. determined not to be defeated, Will makes a bold move. He takes Sylvia Weiss hostage and escapes the mansion. Returning to the impoverished Dayton ghetto with Sylvia, Will is ambushed by the Minutemen gang led by the elderly British mobster Fortis. However, to Fortis' disappointment, he finds that the unconscious Will has lost all of the precious time given to him by the late Henry Hamilton. Frustrated, Fortis steals most of Sylvia's time, but is forced to flee as the approach of other timekeepers draws near. Will regains consciousness and, seeing Sylvia's dwindling time, selflessly gives her some of his own remaining time so they can safely return to his old neighborhood. Their first stop is the home of Will's friend Borel, only to tragically discover that Borel has drunk himself to death with 9 years still left on his clock, leaving behind his grief-stricken wife Greta.
What is that supposed to...
Determined to make a stand, Will and Sylvia seek refuge, where Will places a daring call to Philippe Weiss. He demands a ransom of 1,000 years to be distributed among the impoverished people of the Dayton ghetto in exchange for Sylvia's safe return. Hearing this, the timekeeper Leon traces the call's location and heads to Dayton, hot on Will's trail and determined to put an end to his crusade. Despite Will's bold ransom demand, he soon discovers that Philippe Weiss has not paid the promised 1,000 years of time. However, determined to see his plan through, Will decides to let Sylvia go free regardless. As Will prepares to face the consequences, the timekeeper Leon suddenly appears to place him under arrest. But in a surprising twist, Sylvia shoots Leon in the shoulder, disarming him. Seeing an opportunity, Will swiftly transfers 2 hours of his own precious time to the incapacitated Leon, allowing the timekeeper just enough to walk out of the Dayton ghetto before his time fully expires. With Leon neutralized, Will and Sylvia make their escape, stealing Leon's patrol car and then using it to commandeer a luxurious limousine. As they drive off, Will offers Sylvia one last chance to walk away from the perilous path they've chosen. But to his surprise, Sylvia declares that the life she once knew in New Greenwich holds no purpose for her anymore. Resolved to fight against the unjust time-based system, Will and Sylvia embark on a series of daring time bank robberies. They systematically target the heavily guarded time capsules, vaults that store vast reserves of time equivalents, and redistribute the stolen wealth to the impoverished people of Dayton. Their Robin Hood-esque exploits quickly earn them a bounty of 10 years on their heads. Eventually, the vengeful Fortis tracks down Will and Sylvia a second time. Eager for a confrontation, Fortis challenges Will to a high-stakes time fight, a duel where the combatants wager their own time against each other. Drawing upon the specialized combat techniques he learned from his late father, Will emerges victorious, defeating the seasoned Fortis. As Will and Sylvia continue their campaign of time bank robberies, they slowly come to a sobering realization their efforts, while noble, have been largely futile. The rich and powerful elite, embodied by the likes of Philippe Weiss, possess the means to simply increase the cost of living in the ghettos, thereby maintaining the oppressive status quo no matter how much time they redistribute. Determined to strike a more decisive blow, Will and Sylvia set their sights on Weiss' private headquarters, home to a colossal time capsule containing a staggering 1 million years of time. In a daring heist, they succeed in stealing the entire contents of the vault. Before escaping, Will make sure to deliver a powerful message directly to Weiss himself. He proclaims that nobody should be afforded the privilege of immortality if even a single person in society is forced to die prematurely due to lack of time. As Will and Sylvia make their way back to the Dayton ghetto, their getaway is dramatically interrupted when the pursuing timekeeper Leon crashes his car directly into theirs. However, in a final act of defiance, Will manages to hand off the stolen time capsule to a young girl, who then quickly distributes the precious time among the impoverished residents of the ghetto. Undeterred, Leon eventually catches up to Will and Sylvia on the outskirts of the city, holding them at gunpoint. But as he confronts them, Will makes a startling realization: Leon's behavior is strikingly different from the other timekeepers he has encountered. Piecing it together, Will correctly surmises that Leon himself was once from the ghettos, but had somehow managed to successfully circumvent the oppressive time-based system. In a bold move, Will jokingly asks Leon to return some of the time he had previously loaned him, so that he and Sylvia might have a chance to survive until their eventual executions. To Will's surprise, Leon suddenly realizes that he had neglected to replenish his own time reserves before setting out to pursue them. Faced with the realization of his own mortality, the timekeeper succumbs, dying right there on the spot. With mere seconds left before their time expires, Will springs into action, racing to the nearby patrol car that belonged to the fallen timekeeper Leon. Scrambling to access the allotted time stored within, Will hurriedly transfers the precious minutes and hours over to Sylvia, mirroring the heartbreaking scene in which he was forced to witness his own mother's demise. Just in the nick of time, Sylvia's life is spared, her time meter replenished. Emboldened by this narrow escape, Will and Sylvia redouble their efforts, continuing their campaign of daring time bank robberies in a desperate bid to crash the oppressive time-based system once and for all. The bounty on their heads has now skyrocketed to a staggering 100 years. The rich and powerful, unaccustomed to having their dominance challenged, struggle to cope with the sudden influx of impoverished ghetto residents who now possess enough time to freely cross the heavily guarded time zone boundaries. A news broadcast dramatically showcases the factories where Will once labored now lying dormant, their workers having become newly empowered by their newfound temporal wealth. The timekeepers, once the unwavering enforcers of the status quo, can only look on helplessly as the carefully constructed social order begins to unravel before their eyes. At the end of the movie, Will and Sylvia are shown making preparations for their most audacious heist yet, targeting an obscenely massive time bank that serves as a central repository for the elite's unfathomable temporal holdings. Undeterred by the immense risks, they remain resolute in their mission to continue disrupting the oppressive system, no matter the cost. Hope you enjoyed the movie and subscribe.